Do you think the industry's changed for the better or the worse?
I don't think it's really changed. I think technology has altered much of how the industry is functioning today. But I think the industry is still the same real estate industry that I got into, 50 years ago. What we do, how people are successful, how people are not successful, why people fail, why they succeed, the process of obtaining listings or obtaining sales, negotiating, contracts have changed. But I don't think the industry itself has changed that much. At the end of the day, the most successful people this year in the real estate business will be the people that work, that prospect, that look to their relationships, and the people that will fail will be the people that don't work, don't want to call on their relationships, don't want to prospect. And it's pretty simple. And that hasn't changed in 49 years.